The controversial principal insists he's leaving because he's tired, not because he's being forced out. He was suspended only last week. Joe Clark wasn't in town on February 15th when professional performers dancing before students stripped down to G-strings. But the school board said even though the principal was out of town, he was responsible.
In lieu of the fact that I wasn't here, I suspect that something was involved that was unsavory. In no way am I leaving because of a bunch of impish, insincere, diabolical council member individuals.
But a lawyer for the Paterson Board of Education says it's probably a good thing Joe Clark is stepping down. His popularity was becoming too big for East Side High.
I think that it's time for the school to settle down and get back to the educational process.
Clark has become a media celebrity in the past year, lauded by the Reagan administration, even turned into the stuff of movies.
All right, Sam, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back on my own word just this once and let you back into my school.
The movie depicts Clark's disciplinary measures at East Side High. Some board members may be glad Clark is leaving for a while, but many students don't feel the same way. Today, back from his suspension, Clark found a warm welcome.
Joe Clark, you know, he the one made this school like it is now.
I would not say the whole school itself would collapse, literally, but a lot of standards that have been set will fall down. They call it East Side Pride here at this high school, and they say Joe Clark has instilled it, and if he leaves, things simply won't be the same. In Paterson, New Jersey, Jane Tillman Irving, Channel 2 News.
New York City officials are going...
Price goes way down.
Well, this could be the end of a colorful era at Paterson, New Jersey's East Side High School. The school's controversial principal, Joe Clark, says he is leaving, but will he come back? Frank Casey reports.
Joe Clark, the dapper no-nonsense principal of East Side High in Paterson, New Jersey, may be hanging up his bullhorn for good. After 7 years at the helm of the tough inner-city school, Clark says he's taking a paid 6-month sabbatical at the end of the school year, from which he may not return.
I have decided that it's in the best interest of my tired soul. My soul is reeling from fatigue, from fighting the drug problem, keeping it out of the building, the vandalism and the violence and the truancy and incest and rape and ad infinitum.
While critics question his methods, few would disagree that Joe Clark did, in fact, clean out drugs and violence at the school, making it a safer place to learn. But the question many are asking now is, did Joe Clark improve academics at East Side High?
Absolutely not. In my opinion, absolutely not. I challenge him because when the question comes up about academics, he just kind of clouds the issue through.
Clark's bat and bullhorn rule at East Side High has been controversial from the start. The latest flack surrounds a sexy G-string number in a variety show last month in the school's auditorium. The students got an eyeful before the curtain was drawn, and Clark got a 5-day suspension. Clark's students stood by him, holding a mass demonstration at City Hall, just like they did in the movie Lean on Me, which stars Morgan Freeman as Joe Clark. So what's next for Joe Clark? Perhaps a place on President Bush's drug team.
Some preliminary discussions have taken place, only preliminary. Of course, I could go on the lecture circuit, and I'm going to write a second book.
I'm Frank Casey, reporting.
An anonymous college...
Because he allowed a controversial dance troupe to perform while he was out of town promoting the movie.
Are you getting my point, people? Yeah. Is it beginning to sink in?
His first day back on the job, Clark leveled a new counterattack against his school board, with word that he's planning to take a leave of absence in the fall.
My soul is tired from the vicissitudes of a system that has no cognizance of what is necessary if we are to save our cities and our schools. I want to state, for the record, I can no longer be part of a system that exploits youth.
Clark denied he was reacting to his recent censure by the Paterson School Board. Authorities had ordered him suspended for 5 days in the wake of a racy dance performance at East Side High. Clark admitted booking the act in which 4 male dancers were stripped down to their G-strings, provoking the outrage of teachers and parents. Further complicating matters, Clark was off in Hollywood at the time of all of this, promoting Lean on Me. Clark's newfound celebrity is gaining him attention in Washington as well. He says people in the Bush administration are talking to him about working with William Bennett in the fight against drugs.
For the third year in a row, he's currently an outpatient in a drug rehab program.
Another high-profile principal, the iron-handed Joe Clark, is dropping out of school.
I use the bullhorn because the bullhorn makes me ubiquitous.
Clark used unorthodox methods to maintain strict order at Eastside High in Paterson, New Jersey. He even wound up on the cover of Time magazine, trademark baseball bat in hand. But today, Clark, fresh from his latest battle with local bureaucrats, said he was leaving his job, maybe forever.
My soul is tired from the vicissitudes of a system that has no cognizance of what is necessary if we are to save our cities and our schools.
Clark reached a personal peak last month with the premiere of the movie Lean on Me, based on his efforts to get rid of classroom drug dealers and slouches.
People are drug dealers and drug users. You are all expurgated.
But he hit an all-time low with school officials when he approved an assembly, which turned out to include a strip show, something Clark denied knowing anything about. Clark's East Side students were heartbroken by today's news.
He made me want to strive to succeed. He was there when you needed him, somebody we was able to look up to.
But not everybody was sad to see him go.
I think that a change would be beneficial in that a new approach, a fresh approach would be taken to the educational process.
Oh, my heart pines. I sat in my office today and there were tears in my soul. For I just looked where we came from.
Clark's 6-month sabbatical, which he says might turn out to be permanent, begins when the current school year is out.
Len Berman is next with sports.
For work in New Jersey.
And New Jersey high school principal Joe Clark is thinking about relocating tonight. Clark says he's taken a 6-month leave of absence from Paterson's Eastside High. He's now talking to the Bush administration about a possible job in Washington. Clark is the subject of a new feature film depicting his tough disciplinary style. He believes that style has paid off.
We have eliminated, we have eradicated drugs in this school. We don't have a drug problem, hailed by the former Secretary Bennett as a drug-free school. Now, I think that deserves...
Clark is looking towards a possible job with the Bush administration. He has had talks with former Education Secretary and current drug czar William Bennett. Clark was recently suspended for 5 days because of a strip show at a school assembly. But he says that his decision has nothing to do with the suspension.
And when Katie and I return with eyewitness to buy the Eastern Shuttle.
Paterson, New Jersey's most famous principal is packing in his bullhorn tonight. Joe Clark officially announced he's taking a 6-month paid sabbatical starting in September. The East Side High principal, known for his unusual disciplinary measures, was suspended last week when a strip show was performed at the school. But he insists he's not leaving because of his critics.
In no way am I leaving because of a bunch of impish, insincere, diabolical council member individuals.
Clark says he's talking to the Bush administration about a possible job and may also write a book.
Child care. It is one of the Jersey officials say that they may be forced to declare a drought emergency later on this week. Joe Clark has been in hot water before, but this time he's boiling over, and the Paterson principal says that he's ready to walk away. Heidi Kemp reports.
Principal Joe Clark meets with reporters and photographers more often than the school board these days. And today he called the media around him for an early morning announcement.
My soul is tired, and I feel like going on, but something within me tells me it's time, Joe Clark, for you to take a temporary rest.
Clark says he's planning a 6-month sabbatical beginning in September. The controversial character is considering writing a book and pondering a possible position with the Bush administration.
He have a lot of pressure on him, so no one should blame him.
I feel it's awful for the students who left behind without like a guideline, because it's like a guideline for us.
He's got a lot of support here from teachers, students, parents. I wouldn't be here if he weren't here.
Clark's announcement comes on his first day back at Eastside High following a 5-day suspension. That was because of a rather racy school assembly where men stripped down to their G-strings.
In no way am I leaving because of a bunch of impish, insincere, diabolical council member individuals.
Clark's intense anger with the city council basically stems from this resolution passed last week, which calls for his dismissal. In it, Councilman Hayden itemizes 17 reasons he believes Clark should be fired, ranging from his explosive temper to alleged cheating on the state exam.
A sabbatical is not the solution. The solution is absolutely unequivocally to terminate Joe Clark with due process.
The Board of Education will not be intimidated by any political pressure placed upon it by the City Council.
And in terms of that sabbatical, Rosenberg says Clark must submit a written request, but the board hasn't seen one yet.
I will give a written request for a sabbatical when I deem it appropriate.
When asked who Clark would be confident with as a replacement here at Eastside, he said only one man with the initials JC, Jesus Christ. But Rosenberg with the Board of Ed said Patterson has a deep well of administrators, and he's confident they can come up with a well-qualified candidate should Clark get that sabbatical. At Eastside High in Patterson, Heidi Kemp, Channel 9 News.
And coming up in this half hour, you'll see how...
blew up.
And Joe Clark, the principal who runs his school with a baseball bat and a bullhorn, says pressure from the city council is not the reason for his sabbatical. Clark is taking a leave from Eastside High School in Patterson, New Jersey, starting this fall. He says he just needs a rest.
My soul is tired from the vicissitudes of a system that has no cognizance of what is necessary if we are to save our cities and our schools. I want to state, for the record, I can no longer be part of a system that exploits youth.
Today was Clark's first day back in school. He was suspended for 5 days over a strip show during a school assembly. Clark was out of town during the show and says the producer and the city council may have set him up.
I would not be surprised if it was implemented by some members on that council. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they paid this guy off to sabotage me and to embarrass me.
Now, Clark did not say for sure whether he'd be back at Eastside High at all. He says there could be a job for him with President Bush's new drug czar, William Bennett. Nothing, though, is final yet. Still ahead, Governor Cuomo vetoes the death penalty.
Universal Pictures is turning into a house of hits as the studio extends its winning streak in our top 5 weekend box office chart. Here's the countdown.
Want to hit. Sir, you have 18. You don't want to hit. He doesn't want to hit. Hit me.
Rain Man returns to the top 5 at number 5. Disney's reissue of The Rescuers debuts at number 4.
Now, when you're destroying your brain cells, you're doing the same thing as killing yourself. You're just doing it slower.
Lean on Me drops 2 spots to number 3.
My God, are you picking this up?
Look at that.
The underwater monster movie Leviathan debuts in 2nd place.
You smell nice. I expect you'll be popular.
And the Chevy Chase sequel Fletch Lives opens at number 1. The 7th Universal Studios wide release in a row to open in the top spot. Bill?
Thank you, Liz. Though it didn't make the top...